德玛西亚视频站，视频背景音乐、选手主播天赋符文、隐藏分查询，就在王者学堂。还等什么？赶快扫描微信二维码，关注我们微信吧！喜欢猫咪的你，就来关注我们微信吧。
Both of those for our mid laners into the pick and ban phase for game number 3. ESC Ever over on the blue side now. Samsung Galaxy on the red. There's a first ban on Crown's Victor. Right back at you, Temp, with a ban on Varus.
Yep, and the Crown ban away. So ESC Ever proving to be the best team that Samsung has ever encountered in the picks and bans, at least, as they ban Victor every single game. And with the Ryze ban, that might be a little bit preemptive to say that, okay, you can't use Ryze against Syndra if you don't want to ban that away.
Well, at some point, targeting down Crown with all these bans, it's just like, is he really the member of Samsung that you need to focus? There's that Nidalee ban that we kind of expected coming out, and with ESC Ever, their last ban, I wouldn't be surprised if it just targeted Crown as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the final ban, which is fortunate for ESC Ever, it can actually be whatever they want. You could even
okay, well, there's the Syndra ban. Crown, you are the least, or maybe most popular mid laner, because you're not going to have very many options, or at least not your 3 strongest.
Well, the Syndra ban is pretty surprising because maybe they're thinking that, okay, he can last pick the Syndra, in which case you wouldn't want to do a preemptive Vladimir, because then you hand over too much to Samsung Galaxy in the pick ban if they elect for the counter pick mid. But still, it seems a little bit bizarre to me, because I don't feel like Syndra really did too much last game at all.
Certainly not. Now, game number 2, I believe Elise was actually banned, and now she will be the first pick there for ESC Ever. Gonna give it over to Bless, and now thinking about what the next couple of picks are for Samsung. Now, Jin has been a very hotly contested pick. Jace as well, but that's been banned. So hovering over that Jin, as well as Orianna. Kind of a safe pick. We did see quite a few Orianna games at Worlds. Where do you think she fits in, and is that really the go-to pick you want on Crown?
Currently, Orianna's pretty much like an A-tier mid laner right now. It really depends on your team composition and what you're going to play. With Kennen still being available, there is a real possibility that there is some synergy there if they do elect to go for the Kennen pick up there in top lane.
Definitely possible. Still waiting for the next couple of lock-ins that Ari hover. Super weird. Talia is a throwback, because Tempt, after CJ's mid laner Sky debuted Talia, Tempt actually really picked it up and had some success on it too. Not going to see that by any means. Talia is pretty gone. The Azilian pick we have seen a couple of times, mostly as a counter to Syndra, but with Syndra banned out, would be surprised to see that locked in too.
Yeah, and it looks like Ashe will be the lock-in for choice, so we're going to have an Ashe Thresh lane, and again, Ashe soft counter to Jin. Still no support yet revealed for Samsung Galaxy.
Hovering is Zyra. Certainly top-tier support as far as that goes, although might that set Totoro up for some Misfortune support, not with Thresh locked in.
Yep. So there was a little bit of synergy for Orianna on that Olaf. It's very easy for Olaf to get into the back line. And just Orianna ult on top of him, and it's pretty easy to set up plays with that. But we still have yet to see their top laner. It does look like they are giving Cube the counter pick for whatever he wants up there. But now we're going to get to see the mid laners for ESC Ever and the top laner.
Yeah, with the 1v1s that were so persistent in game number 1, I wonder if we're going to see a return to that. Samsung at least allowing Cube the opportunity to pick whatever he wants. Totoro with a hover on Gangplank. Now, that's a little bit of a throwback. Haven't seen too much of him ever since, especially Worlds. With Poppy left open, definitely a more meta pick there.
Yep, definitely a meta pick indeed. And in yesterday a tournament, we saw Kennen actually picked into Poppy with an on-hit build, but swapped to Shen last second, and so that's going to be a Shen pick. And Shen is a champion that we actually have not seen for a very long time, and I was not expecting to see him here today either.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, maybe like Ed from MVP was the last guy to pick that in LCK last season. Didn't see it at all in Worlds, and now we're getting a chance to see a little bit of a stranger there to the top lane for Crazy. What's the counter pick here for poor JJ? He's hovering that Gangplank. Would that really be the punishment champion that Samsung are looking for?
Well, Gangplank, he's interesting because Shen doesn't actually have a way to kill him in the 1v1. And, you know, outside of that, I mean, his scaling is just absolutely enormous. There's no way to really stop a late game Gangplank. Even though he did receive nerfs a long time ago, and that impacted his ability during the laning phase and stuff, you can definitely work around that with runes and masteries, and you can reach that late game presence where Gangplank is probably, I mean, he was at one point the only champion in the game that even if your team was down 10,000 gold, you could still say, okay, but we still have Gangplank.
Yeah, very, very impactful, but still some newer champions. Haven't seen these guys in quite a while. Shen and GP up in the top lane for our deciding match between both of these teams. KeSPA Cup is a single elimination tournament, and this is our final game in this round of 8 best of 3. One of these teams will be going home. For Samsung Galaxy, they're definitely coming off of a hot streak at Worlds where they finished 2nd place, but for ESC Ever, this is their home soil, and even though their roster's changed since their victory in last KeSPA Cup, we'll see if this one is good enough to get them through. Final game here, and there is your lineup for ESC Ever. Crazy Blessed Temp, Loken, and Totoro. And on the other side, Samsung Galaxy, Cube, Ambition, Crown, Ruler, Core JJ. This is their Worlds lineup, but is it strong enough to go up against ESC Ever? Get out there, hashtag KeSPA Cup as we get into our deciding game number 3, starting right now.
Come out! There's a burning friction!
ESC cheers getting louder as we get into our deciding match of the night, or at least of our first series. We've got one more after this, but as far as this goes, interesting top lane, a little bit reminiscent from midway through last season, but also interesting to see our first Ashe pick of this series, which is going to be pretty cool to see piloted by Loken after it was a champion that Ruler initially really came out and showcased.
Yep. And, I mean, to start things off, it's going to be a little interesting to see how creative ESC can get, because it's going to be very difficult for them to find kills on the top laner, and it's not going to be very likely that Bless is going to be able to do any sort of plays against Ambition early on.
Either way, nothing happening too early. I actually want to highlight Ambition, like you said, the amount of plays that are going to come on to him, maybe the plays that he's going to be able to make, but both of those a little bit interesting as we see this invade into his jungle at the red buff. We'll be looking to steal this one away. Bless and Crazy. What do you think about this invade? It's one of the first, it's one of the only early aggressive invades that we've seen all tournament long.
Yeah, I think it's pretty okay. It's definitely not too bad. It's just going to be an opening handshake that you can obviously choose. Now, ESC not actually getting any intel down on their own red buff, so there is definitely the possibility for Ambition to go over and try to steal that away. Totoro going to take a little bit of damage that he would definitely not want to take.
There was a ward placed on Ambition at his own blue buff, so at least they're going to see where he is and where he heads off to. And he is heading down into the river, so it's entirely possible, like you said, he might just do some horizontal jungling and head on over. Looks like that is exactly where he is going after a brief stop at the Raptors. Interesting to see, exactly like you said earlier, with that warning ping on the red buff saying, hey, that could be the route Ambition is taking.
Yep. And so he probably will go to red immediately after. It's not like there's any sort of deep mind games going on from Bless where he tried to go maybe from red to red.
hanging on to it, and everybody from ESC ever pretty much knows that Ambition is going to be in that area. Now, what might happen is Temp coming down to maybe try to catch him on the exit. It looks like as he heads down towards the bottom half of the map, Ambition's pretty deep in enemy territory. There is a ward in that tri-brush that might signal him out. He could always just like set up for a dive on the bottom lane if the wave pushes in, but with all those pings going off onto him, it's really impressive to see how aware ESC ever are.
That's super, super impressive. So that's actually just Bless tracking him through the fog of war, and this is something that you come to expect out of super high-level junglers. They know exactly where you are, how long it takes to clear the route, how you move across the map, at which speed you do it,
and look at where Bless is. He's right on Ambition as soon as he comes back from base. They both got double buffs, but Bless is just owning it up when it comes to tracking down Ambition. And now Temp going in onto Crown, gets the poison and the Twin Fangs, but running a little bit low on mana. That 1v1 in the mid lane heating up.
And I want to point out that Bless's positioning there waiting for the red buff, it's actually completely correct. Ambition actually taking a little bit of an unconventional route, but that's primarily because it provides him with a little bit more gold.
Oh, now coming into the mid lane, we've got a 1v1 that's about to turn into a 2v1. Crown heading around the corner, but right on time there is Bless, who won't chase in too deep into the dark woods, but is there in time to protect Temp, who is pretty low on mana.
Yep. And gonna be good right now.
Oh my goodness, the sense from Bless this game, so incredible. Not face checking right into the red buffed Olaf. Ambition, of course, having that red buff for a little bit longer because it was taken as his second buff, whereas Bless did take that one first.
And here in mid lane, even though it looks like Crown is dominating pretty hard, Temp still has a minion wave to CS, and he is already currently ahead in CS.
Ambition maybe just getting in on there, turning it around. There's the damage from Bless, who takes it right back with an undertow. Crown, I'm not sure exactly how close he is to level 6. Temp just hitting level 5, so probably not extremely close. Top lane 1v1 also kind of heating up as Bless continues to hover around mid. Now Crown actually going underneath the turret, taking up a hit. There's the flash, and almost with the last auto, misses it and won't secure that first blood onto Temp.
That was really, really close, and good reaction time by Temp right there, but ultimately that will hand the advantage over to Crown as he's going to get some more experience than his opponent.
Interesting to see that Crown was going for the same play there that he did when they were playing against Rising Stars Gaming. He walked into mid lane and first blooded his mid lane opponent on Victor with that exact same aggressive flash forward. And he's trying the same strategies against Temp, a guy that just solo killed him in lane last game. So maybe not necessarily respecting immediate reaction times like Temp did have, and that's going to get Temp out alive, sending both mid laners back to base.
Yep. Poor JJ canceling his recall right there. I'm not sure if he actually could have just enabled it to channel and go off anyway, but nonetheless, he will stay in this lane to pick up the experience and maybe a little bit of gold.
Ambition now down towards the bottom half. He is definitely on the low side. Does help him jungle thanks to Olaf's passive, but will probably send him back to base pretty quickly immediately after this. Lots of fighting this series, but not necessarily a whole lot of kills, and I really appreciate that. A lot of laners just really knowing their kill potential, their vulnerability, potential for going down, like you just saw there in the mid lane. Now Totoro walking forward, looking to find a hook on the core JJ, but actually gets eaten up in the end. The plant almost about to take him out, but he'll survive with a Dark Passage shield.
Yep, and he does not have to be as safe as he would normally if Zyra had end up having a flash. And a little bit interesting that she actually does have the exhaust, and that's primarily just going to be for Temp in the later stages to control him.
Lots of damage there. Temp continuing to put on the pressure, but not overextending as Ambition is waiting in the wings. So great just awareness. Both junglers there around the mid lane. And following this around, what's the biggest impact as far as these early game plays have gone? Because these teams seem to be pretty even.
Well, the problem for ESC ever is they're facing a Gangplank. So the longer the match goes on and it just basically goes tit for tat, or nothing's going to be good for them. If Gangplank's just enabled to scale up, get to 3 items, 4 items, etc., you're going to be in for a...
There's the slow in there. Crown dodging the poison, going to try to turn things back around there with the shockwave, but it's not enough. Now here comes Crazy, but he's actually going to dodge almost everything. And does to get taken down pretty low. Tempt as well. Going to get locked up there, and maybe Zyra with the follow-up. It's Core JJ finding a kill there for Samsung. Bless now taken down very low as he exits, but will survive alive. That play by Core JJ getting in there, being aggressive and finding a kill to put Samsung on the board.
Yeah, and that was a 4-man assist, so we can just watch this again. Tempt calling in Shen for the ultimate, and I mean, even without Shen, I'm pretty sure that Tempt actually might be able to find the kill there anyway. Ambition arrives, it's a little too late, and then he's forced to turn back around as Bless was there, but fortunately, Ruler and Core JJ hitting that snare, followed up by this play by Core JJ, picks up the kill for a 4-man assist.
That's actually a lot of gold coming Samsung's way. Nice snipe there with the deadly flourish. Ruler able to just barely pick Tempt against the wall. JJ following up, and gonna see the first round of big item buys. Cassiopeia, Tempt rather in a pretty decent spot as the resistance is to stay in lane. Tier stacking up. As far as the other lanes go, I guess pretty even across the board. Where would you say the biggest advantage is for either team, LS?
I mean, the biggest advantage is going to probably be up there in top lane. The fact that QV is basically not facing any sort of resistance with his farming, and he's just able to keep farming up with that parlay and get those extra gold advantages over his opponent, even though they might be CSing pretty evenly.
Yeah, it doesn't have a cull for super greediness as far as that. Nice repel. That's going to get Blessed out and right on top of Crown, who's just going to go down now. Ambition trying to run in. Some low health bars on ESC ever, but not a 1v2. Ambition can fight. Not sure what that shockwave was about. Crown using all of his damage, not finding a kill for it, and going down in exchange. Now Cocoon lands onto Ambition, who's going to get executed under turret. Tempt just blowing this mid lane wide open and coming out against one of Samsung's strongest strengths.
Oh, and a pause happening right here, and that was impressive timing by Bless to actually dodge that shockwave by Crown. And you can see here, Ambition would not have the damage to actually find an execute either onto Tempt or Bless. And, I mean, up there in top lane, Gangplank not having his ultimate could not assist with this anyway.
Plus going for the and one as well at the end, just getting the dive on Ambition.
Yep, and manages to get out there, but there was a pause.
Which is why we are having a somewhat extended replay here. That's the exciting moment when they're walking away from the tower. Now, Bless, because the E was a little bit folded in his shirt, looks like he's pretty much in bliss for this game. 101 has been really helping out not only himself, but his team, going for big dives like that and really just helping set things up. But I really think the most impressive thing, at least for me, has been watching the course that this mid lane matchup has followed. Game 1, Crown just really extremely dominant against what we thought at the time that Syndra pick was incredibly strong. Tempt just didn't pilot that correctly. Game number 1, Tempt just dropped the hammer, had an incredibly dominant game with 2 1v1 solo kills, as much most solo kills tend to be 1v1s. Either way, this time around, Tempt still on fire, and Crown the one who's struggling. Looks like we have a little bit of an update for you guys. Crown's microphone apparently got kind of pulled out of its socket. Very painful for microphones, from what I hear. But we're going to look to pop that one right back in there, get back in the game as soon as possible. It looks like with that having been resolved, here we go.
Yeah. And, I mean, right now, Crown super far behind there in that mid lane, and in game number 3 here, he's also continuing to look very uncharacteristic with a lot of mechanical mistakes and mechanical misplays of, I think, overestimating how much he can do in certain scenarios and maybe even underestimating what his opponents can do.
Yeah, definitely underestimated Vladimir damage from Tempt in game 2. Here, he kind of overestimated going for that aggressive dive against Tempt that didn't pay off, and really has a lot to prove on this Orianna. Now, I guess Orianna kind of a supportive mid laner, so still able to function, at least in those utility roles, if he doesn't get going pretty well. But where does the carry potential come? Is it just from that late game Gangplank potential?
I mean, yeah, basically, Gangplank's going to reach a point where you can't really resist his damage, and he just presses R. It's a pretty good skill to have. Some other champions are very fond of it as well, such as Karthus.
That's the cheat code. If you're a parent and you don't want to teach your kid the entire alphabet, just teach them what the R letter means. Yeah. Show them where it is on the keyboard. They can grow up to be pro players too. It's a viable strategy. Don't try that one at home for sure. Now, Crazy up here versus KeSPA Bay, actually going in for a few more interactive trades as they kind of swap sides in lane. Crazy going to get that taunt on and actually kind of busting KeSPA Bay apart. Retreats to his barrel to speed himself back to turret. That's actually going in Crazy's favor. So things looking pretty good here for ESC Evers. They look to book their trip to the round of 4. Heading down to Busan, we'll keep an eye on that. Totoro actually forced to flash. His Ambition was coming on in. If he had gotten locked up, that would have been a little difficult. And Ambition hanging around, might be looking for the dive here. Teleport used by KeSPA to get to top lane, not coming down bottom anytime soon.
Yep, and they're looking to capture this tower. I don't think that they're going to be able to. The hit points on it is a little too big, and Crown might actually get deleted again right here. Bless does have flash. They're about to have the minion wave underneath turret.
Oh, Crazy also in position as well, looking for the ult, and it looks like this is where ESC Ever will try to pull the trigger. Crown does back off, and that will maybe surrender a little bit on this turret. Now, Bless does have flash available, so flash cocoons are a thing. Wisely backing off. Do you think that was the best call for ESC to make, to just back off defensively and not go for the play?
Well, I think they hesitated a little too long, and I mean, at this point, trading Bless's flash for Crown's flash I think is going to be actually superior, because it also would have resulted in the capture of the tier 1 middle turret. But nonetheless, I mean, Crown sniffing that out, pretty good by him, and now Tempt making his way to top lane, and I don't think Crazy...
yeah, KeSPA is in a little bit of a struggle. He's going to lose that 1v1 to Crazy. Actually, there's the assist, but KeSPA is just going to go down there and trying to feed the kill over to 10th, maybe just a little bit there at the end, but Crazy too strong in that 1v1. Trinity Force is completed by KeSPA, so when he comes back, maybe trying to go for that, you know, revenge kill like we saw in game number 1 a lot, but nice roam from 10th really pins KeSPA in a place he doesn't want to be. Now, nice Lantern will get Totoro and Loken out away, but lots of pressure down bottom lane could result in Samsung drawing the first blood on this turret. Nice Shen ultimate onto Loken. Totoro will fall, but Loken's the one getting all that damage done. Nice flash. The taunt will not lock Ambition down, but he's still going to fall in the end. Crown for the follow-up kill. Turns it into a 1 for 2. The turret stays alive though, so no objective lost, and ESC defends successfully.
Yep, and there was no Gangplank ultimate used either, so that is still available for Samsung Galaxy. And, I mean, they're looking to put Loken under a lot of pressure right now, and Bless is nowhere near bottom lane, so it's not like he's going to be able to alleviate any of this pressure. And never mind, they're looking to instead just recall.
Okay, well, maybe not piling that on. Loken out of mana at that point too. Might have been in a rough spot, but let's take another look at how this dive transpires.
Yeah, so when the curtain call came out as early as it did without minions even underneath the turret at that point, I felt like it was a bit uncharacteristic of them. They managed to find the kill onto Totoro. Unfortunately for them, the Ragnarok dissipated as Crazy went for the taunt onto him, and Crown not able to get there in time to give him that shield that would have kept him alive.
Did come in for a kill, so at least putting himself on the board and closer to being in that 1v1 matchup. And KeSPA clearing out the red buff, notices that it is in fact not there anymore.
Now in mid lane, Crown just going to farm this out a little bit. Core items are complete for almost everyone now on Samsung's side, and likewise on ESC Ever. Almost all of the core items, or the first core items, are complete as well. And now it is, as Loken completes the Rune on Turrican.
All right, well, lots of items being completed, but still have yet to complete our first Dragon. It's being started here by Ambition, with Crown coming down to assist, and that's going to be taken 15.5 minutes. Go over to Samsung so far. It's actually kind of hard for me to remember a game without Elemental Dragons, even though they were such a big change. They really just changed kind of the way that teams play around them, but nice to see these persistent buffs. Do you really feel like that the extra movement speed out of combat will help or change the way that Samsung plays significantly?
I think that the extra movement speed out of combat is good for them, but I don't think it's going to change too much.
Arrow forcing the flash out, but a huge strangle towards those plants going crazy, and it's a double kill. Actually, well, two, rather, coming the way of Samsung. This curtain call Not going to be curtains quite yet for Loken, but KeSPA mows him down for a double kill. That's that bloodthirsty support style guys like Doa Noah and love, and it's just so cool to see it be executed so just decisively. KeSPA's pulling the trigger, knew exactly how to turn that fight around.
Yeah, and that was just really well done. I mean, Ruler and KeSPA probably could have turned that 2v3, but fortunately the Gangplank ultimate there as well. So Loken missing that, and look at that Venn diagram right there as Bless and Totoro locked up by that Zyra ultimate, eating so much damage from the Gangplank ult, and at this point Loken not able to really get away, and Ambition was here even if KeSPA could not find the kill.
Wow, that's actually just so crazy, and it takes a lot of steeled nerves, we'll call it that, from guys like KeSPA to understand what's coming his way, think to himself, all right, this is exactly how you turn it back around, and do so executed mechanically proficiently. Actually so impressive. Now Core up on the top half of the map, looking to maybe turn that matchup around. Spotted out by the pink ward, Crazy will back off, but has he been too slow with that? Actually dodges in, still getting locked up, will dodge a lot of auto attacks, does dodge the plant ones too. Taken down so low under turret, Ambition's got some true damage to say hello. Says goodbye to him and takes him down under turret. Uncharacteristically slow reaction there for Crazy.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like things are really going ESC Ever's way, but they're looking to change that here in mid against Crown.
Bless did not have that flash up. Totoro did, so he could have gone for a flash hook, but didn't decide to pull that trigger. That's the second time ESC Ever have come mid to pressure Crown. Haven't found a kill, but at least this time will be able to take down that mid lane turret. And the bottom.
Turrets are being raised by ESC Ever, except it's also coming at a cost. Now, the problem for me is that any top tier 2 turret is generally a luxury turret. KeSPA does have his ultimate up, and that will shut down this attempt.
Going deep behind the turret, looking for the pull on KeSPA. There's an immediate flashback miss on the... Okay, so not going to be able to grab him back in and force him to play nicely. Ruler just barely able actually to complete his recall. And yeah, like you said, turrets are starting to fall out there. Samsung one up as far as that head-to-head goes, but it certainly seems like ESC not deterred from playing aggressively.
Yep, and I mean the next objective is certainly going to be that middle tier 1 turret, which they're probably going to look to claim in the next few minutes here. Dragon still not on the map. Doesn't look like there's a real opportunity for either team to try to capture the Rift Herald. It is particularly good on both of these top laners, but a little bit unfortunate. Neither team will be able to capture it here. And I mean, as we're moving forward, Samsung Galaxy with the gold advantage right now, and I also feel like the positionary advantage, at least in terms of the map, things are not looking very good for ESC Ever moving forward, because the Gangplank just keeps his engine going, and it's going to reach a point where ESC does not have a response to it.
Well, one of the things we were actually talking about a little bit more is that not just the Gangplank scaling, but, okay, swing and miss on the arrow mid. Not just the Gangplank scaling, but Samsung Galaxy as a team, traditionally, at least over their games at Worlds, looked like one of the best late-game teams at the tournament.
Yep. And, I mean, Samsung Galaxy, ESC Ever, they were also known for their late-game play as well. So this matchup was a little bit interesting in the sense that both teams' particular strengths generally do tend to lie in the late game. However, in recent weeks and also in the gauntlet of LCK, or the Korean region, Samsung Galaxy came out with a very aggressive playstyle, and they were one of the most aggressive teams at Worlds, even though they had that fallback insurance policy of being a late game monster where that's where they're most comfortable.
As far as the late game does go, we talked about how good Gangplank is going to scale up. Jin as well, always a monster when it comes to that. But for ESC Ever, they do have quite a bit of scaling on their side. Who do you think really has the advantage if we do go ultra late?
I mean, if we go super late game, there's no debating ever that any team with a Gangplank is probably going to be at an advantage in terms of ability to dish out damage and gold effectiveness, because Gangplank is one of the only champions in the game that is overly cost-effective with 6 items. It's just unreal the amount of damage and utility that champion offers.
Yeah, it turns out that when you have that much armor penetration from your barrels, when you have Qs that hit like actual monster trucks, it's not going to have a good time when you're on the receiving end. of that. A little bit of a breather here as we set up for the next dragon. Don't know exactly what it's going to be just yet, but for now, we're seeing things stabilize, although Samsung certainly a little bit of an advantage when it comes to objectives. Now going in onto this dragon, perfectly timed. It's an Ocean Drake, so not going to see any necessarily aggressive dragons just yet, but should be easily taken by Samsung.
It's a Water Dragon going over to Samsung Galaxy, and they've been pretty on top of their dragons this game. And not the two best dragons they would like to have, but still Drakes nonetheless, which are advantages. And now it looks like mid-tier 1, ESC with positionary errors.
Trading ults for ults, a nice Ash Arrow snipes out Ruler, the flash over that the shockwave to get poor JJ into a rough spot. He'll go down, and now Crown on the run. Can he get out alive? It looks like he will. Taunt will land onto Ambition, but he's just going to Ragnarok his way away. Lots of damage coming back to him, and there's those big barrel crits you gotta watch out for. 2-for-1 exchange at the cost of Bless's life, but ESC react perfectly.
Yep. And that was a really good opportunity captured by ESC Ever. We saw Loken's arrow lock up Ruler, and they were able to completely just make him deleted from the team fight. And without Ruler, you are missing a pretty big chunk of your damage as Gangplank's not scaled up yet. So you see the arrow hit from Loken, Bless and Crazy chaining their crowd control against him, and they're able to bring him down. The Venn diagram from the Zyra ultimate and the Gangplank ultimate not really doing a lot in this fight because it was unable to lock people up. It did come at the cost of a lot of summoner spells, and you can see that while the damage from Cuvée is a lot, it's still not like what we expect from Gangplank because he's not at that item capacity yet.
Exactly, he's just at about 1.5 at that point, so still not going to be enough to really put the damage on. Did actually deter attempts from chasing through, so maybe effective in that role. Ambition notably, not necessarily just in that fight, but when, oh my god, another snipe! Loken putting him down. There's the chain CC into being grounded from the miasma as well as the cocoon. Nowhere to run. Crown going down for his 3rd time this game.
Would you say that Loken is Loken him down?
I was going to make that earlier, but some of us have good taste in terrible jokes. I'm not sure there is such a thing here. Hook will land onto Ambition, who does not have Ragnarok up just yet. It barely comes off cooldown in time for him to use it to escape.
Yep, and that will be a blue buff being taken by ESC. Oops. And it looks like they put it on Bless. I think it would have been better on Loken.
I think the Spiderling stole it there at the end. Sneaky little guy. Bless is just going to pretend like that was an accident. Run away with a buff that will help him out a little bit. Might have been a little bit better to see it on Loken, like you said. Bless, though, he's going to fight against Cuvée. There's the Shen ult to turn it around. Cocoon will land, but there's a taunt that'll turn that into ESC Ever's favor.
Not quite sure what the ult from Cuvée was actually for. That's not something that you want to be wasting.
Okay, well, we're looking for catches on both sides. Totoro just barely stays alive. And now Loken's got a lot of damage. Chains it in with the arrow. There's no Ragnarok and Ambition. Man, go to your room. You are grounded. Taken out as well.
Big pickups by ESC to keep them in this game right now. And I mean, they can't keep having things like this happen. I'm talking about Samsung because as the death timers begin to increase, Baron becomes a very real threat, especially with blue buff coming up soon. Cassiopeia are going to be able to basically melt Baron, but they're saying that the time is now actually because Gangplank does not have his ultimate. It's really hard to stop this.
Now Crown does, so he's going to look for a good shockwave here in the pit. Yes, he's trying to get away, but Crazy just gets busted on his way out of the pit. He'll go down before the fight really even starts. That's going to force ESC to commit for it. Bless does get the snipe there. The kill on a Baron goes to ESC Ever, and they're massacring SSG as they try to disengage. Loken to clean it back up, and that's a 2-for-1 exchange.
Yeah, and it's a really good pickup by ESC. This actually might be what they needed to put Samsung at such a disadvantage that they can't recover from it because we know that towers are going to fall right now. Ambition forced to use his ult to run away. I don't think there's any way for them to defend against this tier 1 turret. Oh, but Bless will certainly die.
Baron buff up minions might turn this around. Not enough on the cooldowns, the cooldowns for him to venomous bite his way to a victory in that 1v1, but A nice kill coming back Samsung's way. I mean, it's a kill on Samsung, probably the hardest scaling champion there on the team. But walk us through this fight. What happens after Crazy dies?
So after Crazy dies, you can see that KeSPA, for no reason, actually goes into the Baron pit. Even if ESC ever secure this Baron, you were still in a very good position to turn the fight. So why he went in to try to actually win a smite fight against the Elise is really questionable. And so because he did that, basically Samsung was out of position and Tempt was able to just dish out too much damage.
Tempt, man, the monster that ESC ever needed, really, to come into this fight. Guys, I read an article that compared Crown and Faker's performance at Worlds, and talked about the strengths that both of them had. Pointed out just how statistically how similar Crown was when it came to the stats. And really, when you're comparing yourself to Faker, you already know you're in a tier of your own. But coming back to play against this 9th place team, ESC ever. If you didn't tell me the standings from last season, I would have, assumed that Ever is just punching up there towards the top half of them.
Yep. Wow, and super good by Tempt.
Not even overextending or committing his ultimate, both of which might have secured the kill, but also might have put him at a disadvantage. Swing and a miss on the arrow. So not going to find a hit there for Loken, whose arrows have actually been pretty impressive all game long.
Yeah, the arrows have been really good from Loken thus far. Tempt, I have to hand it to him again here in Game 3, playing phenomenally mechanically, and just his positioning, time and time again, is always a step ahead of Crown, except for maybe right now.
Okay, so. No, Chanel will come in for the save, and a nice Dark Passage out keeps the ESC Ever carry alive. So, nice save there, but still a little bit worrisome. We saw what happened in the Africa versus MVP series. When your all-star fed mid laner drops, it definitely can turn things against you. So, misspacing like that for Tempt is kind of a worrying trend.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, Samsung Galaxy, they are on the back foot right now, and it has been basically the ESC show for the last few minutes where they've been making all the calls and Samsung has been forced to respond, but they're actually okay with that because, again,
arrow on KeSPA. No McHale's to save him there. He will drop there. Loken with the kill, not overdiving ESC Ever. Pull back in time to get Ruler's ultimate out. Tempt maybe with a somewhat preemptive Archangels, but everyone okay on the ESC Ever side. KeSPA down, and a very scary push up the bottom half of the map for ESC Ever.
They, I don't think they can actually persist with this push. It does look like they're going to get another blue buff away from Samsung Galaxy. Not the end of the world, but it definitely does hurt a little bit.
I think that's the second blue buff that Bless is taken there away from an ESC carry. So maybe just securing it. I don't know. Either way, lots of blues here on the Spider. Let's take another look at this pick on KeSPA.
Yeah, so Loken manages to lock up KeSPA. No ultimate available for KeSPA, and they can't really do too much here. And unfortunately for Ruler, he had to flash away because he tried to invest into saving KeSPA. And they keep picking up all of these kills. ESC keeps getting a lot of cute little kills, but the real problem is going to come with the next Baron and the next Dragon, because that's when we can actually expect KeSPA to have that gigantic item advantage on the gangplank that just enables him to start deleting people from teamfights.
Well, we'll see if he can deal with Crazy at this point. That's actually a decent amount of damage being traded back. Top lane, though, both junglers heading up. ESC decide against it. So the play for Samsung, is it just hang on and wait for KeSPA to carry them? Or is there, do they want to play passively, more aggressively? What's going on here?
I mean, right now, ESC Ever, they're on a clock because of the Gangplank. If Gangplank was any other top laner in the game, they wouldn't be on a clock at all. But right now, the Baron coming up in 2 minutes is extremely crucial for them to capture because it's going to directly translate into their ability to also penetrate the towers of Samsung Galaxy, because right now they're finding difficulty in trying to do that because of the wave clear that comes out from Jhin, Orianna, Zyra, and Gangplank.
Nice dodging there from Totoro and Loken. Totoro once again using that Dark Passage to completely negate Ruler's Curtain Call. What do you think Ruler went for it there? Is it just try to find a lucky pick on the Loken or Totoro?
Well, I think he was just trying to get any sort of slows off that maybe could have translated into the start of a team fight. They do have the ultimate available from Cuvée, and there's definitely the opportunity to blow people up. But other than that, I don't think there's too much to it.
Looking through the stats for both teams, at least through the first round of the tournament coming in here to the round of 8, when it comes to KDA, 4 out of 5 of ESC Ever's teammates are in the top 5. I think the #1 KDA is Punch on Kongdu. We'll get a chance to see him later, but ESC, insane KDAs coming in here to the round of 8. And also, it's not just the KDAs, also top 5 in kill participation as well. So they're fighting together as a group, as a team. You can see that reflected even in games like this. Hook immediately negated there with the Ragnarok. Ambition won't even get the red buff as it's taken away by Bless.
Yep, and so the red buff going over to Bless. Ambition down an entire level.
1v1 on the bottom lane. Cuvée versus Crazy. Maybe we'll get the move speed to run away, but that's not a fight he's going to win.
Yep, not a fight he's going to win at all. Lord Dominic's, it looks like, complete for Cuvée, by the way. Next item probably going to be the Maw of Malmortius. Keep stacking on the penetration and damage. Yeah, and there's the Hex Drinker for it.
Yeah, and the giant purple worm. Lord Baron Nashor going to be spawning in the pit, and we'll see if this goes quite as well for ESC Ever. They're going to try to two-man this, and Totoro scouts out Ambition on the other side. Now Ambition does have Ghost up, so he can run in, but it's just too late. Way too much damage, gives a pretty free and clear Baron to ESC Ever.
I mean, I don't know what Samsung Galaxy is doing at that point. Because you have to understand that that is a very real possibility with Cassiopeia, and just given the advantages they have right now. So not having any vision around it, you definitely want to be checking and seeing if they are doing that. And giving that away for free is not something they want to do. Now, fortunately for Samsung Galaxy, the dragon that is coming up in just a minute here will not be an Elder Dragon. So they don't have to worry about Elder Drake for quite a while. And it's not like they'd have to resist much more than other than this Baron push.
Oh boy, wow, this game, this series have definitely gone the distance. ESC Ever not giving up without a fight, and Samsung, even though their backs are on the ropes, might be able to just hang on little by little. Now Ambition does not want to Ragnarok again. Take a little bit of damage for it, but still relatively healthy, trying to secure or at least save this turret for a little bit longer. Ruler now joining the top side, but bottom lane, once again, Cuvée versus Crazy. Not quite going his way. Now Loken, spotted out by a ward just barely. Cuvée trying to run away. He actually just uses oranges, so he's going to be forced to flash. He used that remove scurvy just to heal as he disengaged, and at that point it was kind of pinched against the wall and an arrow. He flashed away from, and that's going to surrender the second tier turret on the bottom half of the map, and most likely ESC able to push this top half for a turret kill as well.
Yep, and the turret will definitely fall as well as the one in bottom lane, having already fell. And the gold lead extends to 6,000, or 60,000.
6,666
yeah,
gold.
my tongue is like slipping up and I can't speak
It's actually
right now.
66.
666, that was, yeah.
Yeah, it's 66.
No Teemo in the game, but
okay,
the
wow.
devil is here.
Don't try to read numbers and cast at the same time. Like, I'm going to try to read that dragon HP. It's not going to work out. It changes too fast, LS. I just can't do it. It's dead. There we go. All right, we're going to go with some Boolean logic indicators to indicate whether or not that thing is alive or not. It's not going to be Schrodinger's dragon, in which case we would still fail at that. But either way, it's out of there, and that will be the second dragon of the game, picked up by ESC Ever. Like you said, no Elder Drake just yet, so nothing pounding that nail in SSG's coffin just yet.
Yep. And right now, I mean, this push gonna last for a little bit longer. As you can see, the Baron buff duration still will persist for a little bit, but I can't see them actually finding a way into the base of Samsung Galaxy, at least not yet. Although maybe
little by little, poking in, even those Baron buffed up cannon minions actually going to be dealing quite a bit. Arrow in there to chain, but not actually that much damage being done because of it. Keeping the Baron buff on that cannon minion for as long as possible. And mid, bottom, this I guess this is a 1-2-2 split. Is this the best way for ESC Ever to push in?
Yeah, well, they're actually making use of a very interesting 1-2-2 because they realize the utility that they have inside of their champions. and it's extremely difficult for Samsung to actually just pull a trigger onto one of them because they don't have a way to just instantly delete someone. So the 1-2-2 actually, I think, did pretty big wonders in inflicting turret damage.
Okay, well, Logan will be able to get out of there. Did have to actually use... trying to think about how he got out of there. Is the Hex Drinker that actually popped. I thought that was actually a QSS, but he does not own that item, so he couldn't have used it. Gets out of there safe. And
Yep.
Arrow coming forward. Clang-a-lang onto Ruler, Flash, Cocoon, Bless going in for the execute, and now CoreJJ, the one to get taunted up by Crazy, who will teleport in on the Shen. ESC Ever behind enemy lines, but they're totally comfortable diving through these turrets. They pick up 2 kills and might be looking for more.
Yeah, and the minions are on their way, and that tower at 50% HP. I don't know if Crown's going to be able to hold this. You can see he's trying to get into a position where maybe he could have stopped some of the minions. Not going to be the case, as they're probably going to be forced to surrender this inhibitor right now, and that's a very, very big victory for ESC Ever.
And as impressive as Tempt has looked this game in that 1v1, even just for the team, it's Loken's arrows that are finding so many of these opportunities, just landing them over and over again. Really, really MVP performance by these ESC carries.
Yep. And Loken doing a phenomenal job right now. And Elder Dragon going to be coming up in a few moments here. Red buff stolen away from Samsung Galaxy. And I mean, a lot of the problems is that I feel like they're misusing their Gangplank ultimates at incorrect times, and they're overvaluing what they can get out of them. And we can just see this arrow coming in. Ruler has flash, but I think he wasn't expecting this sort of a follow-up where everyone flashed for Ruler. He had a lot of angry fans coming at him.
Yeah, and he was not getting out of there by any means. Also, kind of curious to see, especially with so many abilities to pick you off. ESC Ever, they've got arrow, hook, Temp's got his ultimate. You've got Blessed with the Cocoon, taunt from Crazy. No QSS is on either carry. Is this just not a QSS game? Why not itemize to save yourself?
Well, for QSS on Samsung Galaxy's team composition, yes, they do have the arrow, but outside of that and the Cocoon, generally Ruler shouldn't be getting hit by these things. Okay. The people who should be getting hit are Ambition and KeSPA, which is even more of a testament to how impressive it is for Loken to keep finding spots where he can catch them out of position and find ways to lock them up, because it's just a lot of mispositioning errors from Samsung Galaxy and a lot of captured opportunity for ESC Ever.
And we actually talked about the substitution for Samsung. They had Stitch and Wraith in there yesterday, subbing in what is a, on paper, stronger duo lane to help them make it through this round of 8. There's the arrow, hits onto Ambition, trying to force that ultimate, but the plant spawn from CoreJJ, but Ambition still ults. A little bit of miscommunication. I guess not the faith there in CoreJJ to land the plant to block the hook.
Well, it's not even that. It's that why do you ulti before the hook even actually lands? That doesn't make any sense either.
Now no ult for Ambition. He's going to try to disengage. Will use the Ghost and exit towards the side. But a lot of damage coming through. There's the Gangplank ult there. Totoro taking a lot of it. And he's actually going to go down. There's GP coming up big. Now Tempt on Ambition, even through the Guardian Angel, takes him down. In the end, it's a 2-for-1, and Samsung finally find the fight they're looking for.
Yeah, that's Gangplank in a nutshell for you. So the damage from Gangplank has started to arrive. Not quite entirely there yet, but you're beginning to see images of what is going to come. And Baron being alive and available, however, they do not have Ambition, so maybe they're not feeling too comfortable to start it, but I'm not quite sure as to why, given that Crown still has his ultimate available to him, and you have the Exhaust and Summoner spells up on most of your carries. So I feel like not going for Baron is a little bit questionable.
Well, they have, I guess, no smites on either side, so like you said, yeah, that would be an option. Maybe what they're going for right now, and yeah, Samsung pulling the trigger on Baron.
Yeah, so they're pulling the trigger on Baron, but it's coming at a time where Crazy's up again. Well, not Crazy's
Arrow
up again,
this time hits on the Crown. Another huge pick by Crazy. Zanya saves him at the last second, but it's going to be a secure on Baron for Ruler. At least Samsung getting out with that giant purple worm, but a pick nonetheless that could set up for a strong push forever.
Yeah. And, I mean, the Baron was secured by Jin, so Ruler picking that up, that's going to definitely aid in their resistance. The problem is the Elder Dragon being up right now is a very real threat, because even though Samsung Galaxy have the Baron buff, the map is not being too kind to them right now. As you can see, a giant wave coming in from bottom. That's going to deny a lot of vision. Curtain call coming out from Ruler definitely will shut down this push. And now ESC Ever trying to move into the base. And this looks like a bit of a panicked attempt right now. There's no reason to force as hard as they are. And the Venn diagram might come out.
All right, well, Gangplank ult used pretty much just to clear the wave. Totoro and Loken also getting kind of low, but backing off safe and sound. Do you think that was worth it to trade the Gangplank ultimate just to save the turrets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the cooldown on the Gangplank ultimate right now is not super long, and there's obviously going to be the need to recall now for ESC Ever as they make their way over to the Dragon. But all in all, that decision-making to try to do a forceful endgame push, I think is perhaps a little bit of nervousness actually showing through by ESC as they realize that super late-game monster is starting to arrive. And Gangplank now is actually at 6 items. The only thing left for him to do is to sell his boots, which probably will happen in the next few moments once he gets the gold for that.
What do you think he's going to sell them for? Maybe just a, he's already got Guardian Angel, so more damage?
He could sell it for a Duskblade Drakthar. That is a pretty good item on Gangplank.
Pretty good. KeSPA even just walking up to hit the turret. Now slows in on to Loken, who will get pulled back with Totoro. Ruler, though, the one in trouble as Bless goes in for the assassination. Shen ult to keep him safe, and look at Temp coming in from the side. Stranglethorns to try to zone out and disengage, but it's not going to be enough to save Crown's life. Another Ash Arrow hits onto Ruler. How does he land every one? Crazy in there with a kill, and Bless still going, trying to land some slows, and here we go. ESC Ever, KeSPA Cup buff in full effect. Will find a catch there onto KeSPA, who's not going anywhere. ESC Ever pushing up the mid lane after a 4-for-0 exchange with more than enough of an advantage to close this series out.
I feel like this is actually game over, and I don't know why they're electing instead to secure the 2 inhibitor turrets. With Totoro and Crazy, you should be able to tank the turret as well as the Spiderlings.
Core JJ going to go out there. Crazy on the turrets already. And here comes the damage. The minions allow these turrets to go down just a little bit more quickly. Everyone dead for Samsung Galaxy. And 5 alive for ESC Ever. They will punch their ticket to Busan, heading to the round of 8 with a 22-12, 2-1 victory over Samsung Galaxy.
And I mean, that was just a super impressive performance by Loken. And honestly, the team communication coordination by all of them to follow up on those arrows was super impressive. And honestly, a very probably painful fall for Samsung Galaxy coming right off of Worlds, probably expecting to go a lot deeper in this tournament than just the round of 8. And especially with their World lineup too.
One of the biggest questions about Samsung going into Worlds was, did KT die for this? KT, of course, the team favored to go. Samsung took it away from them. They pile drove through to the the grand finals and then didn't quite make it. So a big question for people is, like, I mean, this is the first season of LCK where Samsung's really come back and looked as strong as they have. Was that just a fluke? Did they just get an easy Worlds bracket? And with their Worlds journey falling short here at the round of 8, falling down to Ever, some big questions still left for them to answer.
And we will be going into interviews shortly. And I mean, this is one of the problems that some people had with Samsung Galaxy. They showed up big in the gauntlet to make it to Worlds, and as you mentioned, KT died for this meme, which popped up. But then Samsung Galaxy went on to make the finals of the World Championship, and they were 1 game away from actually taking the title altogether. Although the level of play in the finals was a little bit shaky, as a lot of people had pointed out. And now here they are in the KeSPA Cup, and again, it's like a Katy Perry song. They're hot and cold.
It certainly is. Well, we'll see if Samsung can just shake it off before next season. Let's go ahead and head into a brief interview to kind of make sense about this 2-1 victory for ESC Ever over Samsung Galaxy. I mean, we joke about the KeSPA Cup buff for ESC Ever. It's always just been their tournament where they made a name for themselves, and now they're coming back again with an incredibly impressive victory. That victory will send them to the semifinals to face the winner of our next best of 3 between KT Rolster, returning after a long time off, playing off against Gangdu Monsters. Now we're gonna head on over to our MVP interview, where we'll get a chance to see exactly what's up for the ESC Ever. So after a very long match, Tempt, the mid laner for ESC Ever, will come out as our MVP. Now, how do you feel after this result about winning that series? Tempt saying, I can't wait to go to Busan. Next question coming in from our commentators. He also says, I'm a little shy to be doing this interview, honestly. So how did it feel going up against Crown, who went to the finals of the World Championship? And Tempt saying, I feel like I gained a lot of confidence after this result, after beating Crown, who went to the finals of the World Championship. So the Korean caster Konkui actually giving a lot of compliments to Bless instead of really asking a lot of questions. But now it's going to come for a question from us. My question would be, after laning against Crown, what do you think of the ESC Ever buff as former champions defending your KeSPA Cup title?
네, 캐스파 컵에서 ESC 에버가 작년에 우승을 했었잖아요. 네, 이번 우승을 향한 그런
Get a chance to see what he has to say about that. The other confidences coming into this tournament once again. And Tempt says, I wasn't there last year, so coming into this time around, it's new for him, but he does say that the rest of the team, he feels like the rest of the team is actually getting much better after coming through this KeSPA Cup, so they're still very confident. A few final questions for our MVP of this series. So thank you for such a good match today, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in Busan next time. That's going to do it for our MVP interview with Bless. And Tempt, a man of few words as usual. Kind of nervous, like he said, but I think he should have nothing but confidence after such a strong performance in the series.
Yeah, he played phenomenally in Game 2 and Game 3. And, I mean, you can't really take anything away from ESC Ever, and I think it's really impressive that they took them down in a best of 3. And next up, we have KT Rolster fielding their roster since the Gauntlet and since LCK Summer, and we're going to see what they can do with it against the Gangdu Monsters.
Well, that's going to be our next matchup, so don't go anywhere. We will be back immediately following a short break upcoming. So now we're going to wave to you guys. We head out. Don't go anywhere. We've got one more series coming up.